for over 20 years.
We are the entertainment you love and information that shapes your day. We are your lifeline. We are your companion. We are broadcasters. Text radio to 52886 and let Congress know you depend on your local radio stations. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
James Rosen, nationally syndicated investigative reporter, but also one-man show.
There's a certain fondness for my De Niro. You give me all these answers, but you don't give me the right answers. So I swear to God, I'm going to kill somebody.
You're very good. I know, completely.
Brilliant. On AM 560.
You're very smart, Joey. You give me all these answers, but you ain't give me the right answer.
The Answer.
People are... Let me back up. All right, Amy Jacobson here, John Anthony in for Dan Proft. We have a new audio board today.
Still here there.
We have no control of our microphones, so I'm trying to be a good girl and not say anything bad. Can't cough, can't do anything, can't communicate. But they're doing the best they can. Josh is here, our new engineer.
Yeah.
And we're grateful that he's here to help out with the kinks. And we're going to just keep on moving on, right?
Yeah.
And then you get to do this tomorrow.
I just want to answer Bruce
from 4 to 7 on Black and White Radio.
I just want to answer Bruce Wolf's question on Twitter. This guy here, I got my hat on, MAGA Republican. Yeah. So I'm with Trump all the way, Bruce.
Yeah,
Bruce
you
is
are.
listening to the show.
Oh, Bruce Wolf is?
Yeah, Bruce
well, hi,
Wolf.
Bruce. Shalom Shabbat. I love Bruce.
I love him, too.
So you're all in. I could have sworn there was a time when you were not all in.
Not this guy.
You were always still.
Always Trump.
Okay.
I'm still Trump. I will go down with the ship.
All right.
I will.
Speaking of tweets, our next guest, you told me yesterday he retweeted one of your tweets once or replied to one of your tweets?
Ago. Yes.
All right, what happened?
Basically, I believe it was something that happened and they tried to make a racial thing out of it. And then I defended James Rosen and then he tweeted out my defense.
Oh, that's great.
So it was pretty cool.
With that said, let's welcome back to the program James Rosen, Chief White House Correspondent for Newsmax and author of the just-released book Scalia, Rise to Greatness, 1936 to 1986. Good morning, Mr. Rosen. How are you?
I'm blessed to be back with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being with us. And we just wanted to start, before we get to your book, with what is going on in Mexico and what our response should be. As you know, 4 Americans, she went to get a tummy tuck and they were abducted, case of mistaken identity. Lindsey Graham wants to, pass legislation that would allow the president to send troops to Mexico. What do you think should be done?
I would venture to say that although reporters are generally well advised to stay away from the prognostication business, we're better at telling you what has just recently happened. I doubt that we will see U.S. troops dispatched to Mexico. This is, of course, a very important bilateral relationship that we have with Mexico, one of our largest trading partners, in addition to all the problems that we all readily understand about what happens at the southwest border. To some extent, this falls into the portfolio of Vice President Harris, who was tasked with improving conditions or coordinating U.S. policy to improve conditions in the countries where legal immigration is strongest into the United States. And the presence of the cartels and the prospect for violence or for lawlessness in parts of Mexico is very much a driver of that illegal immigration. So I think that we have yet to see the full response from the Biden administration to this particular set of events. But it's probably going to be folded, despite the very distressing particularities of it, into the existing policy.
And they, the cartel sent an apology letter and they arrested their own allegedly 5 people. And I'm sure you've seen that picture and read the letter basically saying, please, society, remain calm. The guilty parties will pay regardless of who they are. Is that going to satisfy anybody?
Perhaps those with a special kind of thirst for vengeance. This is not a Netflix series. These are real people, and these are very dangerous people. And I think that no one would be satisfied by an assertion of jurisdiction, so to speak, from a cartel that it will do the policing of itself.
Okay. Now, real quick before we get to the book, AT&T has taken Newsmax off their options. I know a lot of people here in Chicago are upset about that. What is your network trying to do to get back on AT&T?
I don't think I'm the appropriate person to say. only because as a reporter, I have, not too many perks and privileges, but one of them is that I don't have to concern myself with the business side of the operation. It's enough for me, drinking from a fire hose, if you will, just to cover the Biden administration.
Right.
James, how you doing, sir? Such a pleasure.
I'm blessed. I don't remember the particular controversy or sets of tweets you guys were talking about just now, but
it was back when Obama was president. It was back when Ali
used to say, "If it's good, I'm that."
No problem. You look at what's happening and what Tucker Carlson has been able to uncover as it relates to January 6th. You look at what we were told, what we were fed for the last 2 years, not having Jim Jordan or Representative Banks on these committees, because I personally believe what happened with Tucker would have already happened had we had opposition on that committee. What does it say about our government agencies and how they're weaponizing all these government agencies to come after people? I mean, you suffered at the hands of the Obama administration. I believe that's what it was about. The tweet was about, and I came in defense of you.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it wasn't a racial controversy, because I don't remember being at the heart of any racial controversy.
No, it wasn't.
That's what it was about. What do you say about? I mean, how do we fix this? Because nobody wants to do anything about it, where government is weaponizing itself against its own people, especially Americans.
So there's a lot of terms and events and characters referenced in your question, such that I find it perhaps difficult to say it all at once. But so the notion that certain institutions of government have been weaponized against individuals of a particular status or class or political affiliation, it may be considered separately, it seems to me, from our evaluations of the January 6th committee, its fairness, its purpose, its effectiveness, and so on. These are toxic issues. They are a reflection of the kind of what I call the serrated nature to our modern politics. I also think that it's been impossible to date, and just by reference to actuarial tables and mortality rates, one day it won't be the case. But for now, it's been the case that our entire consideration of January 6th, what happened that day, what it means, has been entwined with the political fate of Donald Trump, who remains the Republican frontrunner right now. Yeah. And it would be interesting to me to see what our evaluations of January 6th would be were there not a tendency to Mr. Trump's political career. If he were if for some reason he were not on the scene, would we think differently about that? Because, of course, he was president at the time, and many people want him to be president again. So there's an inevitable tinge of politics to our considerations of what is at this point a historical event, and which was a series of crimes that have been prosecuted. I try not to sort of take sides in these debates as a reporter, but rather to just help explicate them as historical events.
As a chief White House correspondent for Newsmax, what is your gut feeling? I know you don't want to talk about feeling, but facts that Biden.
I also don't want to talk about my gut.
Okay, yes, that President Biden is going to run again or seek re-election.
It seems all but certain that he will. He has said many times it is his intention to do so. Quietly, we see that the building blocks for such a campaign are being put into place. The president has not formally announced that he's going to seek re-election, probably because doing so would disadvantage him in terms of certain fundraising restrictions and requirements and postings. It's kind of an elaborate kabuki dance that a lot of politicians play currently, and I think we would probably be safe in saying we're seeing it play out on the other side in the form of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and the potential bid for the Republican nomination there, where again he's in Iowa. He's released a book and done a lot and put in place a lot of the building blocks, including just today the announcement of another PAC that supports his candidacy. That would be consistent with him running. So I guess the modern election laws and the FEC reporting requirements and all of that administrivia sort of govern when and how politicians announce. But it seems clear that both of those men are headed in the same direction as Donald Trump, who has, of course, already officially declared.
Yeah. And you wrote the book, Scalia, Rise to Greatness. Go out and get it wherever books are sold. As I think about the Supreme Court, it's really missing that lion of, in my opinion, what Scalia was. How How much is this court missing? Because I really wish he would have rose to the point where he became Chief Justice and not Roberts. Because I think his institutional knowledge, I think his ability to make tough decisions, not worrying about what the crowds are going to do out in the streets, because if they make a decision, how much is he missed, and what was his impact to the U.S. Supreme Court?
Well, thank you for asking. The book is called Scalia, Rise to Greatness, 1936 to 1986. It's on sale now. It just dropped this week. It's 5 years in the making. It is the first accurate biography of Antonin Scalia because it is the first admiring biography of Antonin Scalia. The two existing books of biographies written about Justice Scalia, one of which he cooperated with extensively, the other not at all, both turned out fairly open in their contempt for Justice Scalia's jurisprudence, his legacy, his conduct on the bench. So this is the first book published about Justice Scalia since his death. It makes use of a vast wealth of new documents and personal sources that were either overlooked by or unavailable to the previous biographers. And as I say, it's the first admiring portrait of him at book length. And among the many, many revelations in this book, first of all, I should say it only takes us to the first 50 years of Antonin Scalia's life. It ends with him taking his seat on the Supreme Court. Wow. But I found that the previous books had left out so much incredible material and had given short shrift to so many important phases of his career. We gave you just one example. Antonin Scalia's first job in government was in the Nixon administration. He was hired at the age of 35 as general counsel to a new agency called the White House Office of Telecommunications Policy. This was created in 1970 to try and get the federal government arms around its sprawling telecommunications policy. And Scalia's legal genius was harnessed to the task of opening up for free market competition the business of launching domestic space satellites, which had been a monopoly until that point. And that was successfully achieved, and it opened up the telecom revolution that we have today. And in his writings from that period, which have never been published before, the readers of Scalia, Rise to Greatness, will see this. Antonin Scalia in 1971 predicted the Internet. He predicted also the privacy concerns that would arise along with the Internet. And there's one really interesting set of documents where Scalia is presiding over an experiment at the Pentagon where they have two different communication systems, one of which was called auto-DIN. This is like 1971, and they needed to make these two Pentagon communication systems interoperable with each other. And Scalia writes the memo where they declare victory, that these two interoperability has been achieved. They were throwing around terms like shared computer networks 25 years before most Americans would see those words escape their lips. So there's a lot in the book that's new. In terms of his impact, as we all know, he was a champion of originalism. The idea that there's no such thing as a living Constitution. The Constitution doesn't expand to take account of modern phenomena like nuclear weapons or the Internet, that we should always abide by the original meaning of the Constitution and the statutes that get passed by Congress, and that the best way to determine the original meaning is not through looking at what lawmakers said on the House floor in some committee report or other aspects of the legislative process. The best way to find the original meaning is to look at the text of the law. It's called originalism and textualism. The readers of Scalia, Rise to Greatness will see how these tremendously important concepts took root in Scalia, including through his Catholic faith, and influenced his jurisprudence, which touches every area of American life.
And there's also details of the 4 FBI background checks on Scalia. Can you explain that?
The man underwent, as he rose through the levels of government, through 4 FBI background checks in 14 years. And I say in the book, at times the Bureau was going back, they were fanning agents out across the country to interview people who had known Scalia since the age of 13, back in 1949. And it was just, these were incredible dragnets where the vast machinery of the nation's preeminent law enforcement agency was cranked up to find evidence of some derogatory nature somewhere in the world of some kind about Antonin Scalia. And of course, none ever turned up because none existed. And I say in the book that would that all lives paid such close scrutiny, rewarded such superlative testimonials, because everybody the FBI interviewed said he's of the utmost character, he has the utmost intellect, he is the smartest person I've ever met. There is nobody who would be more qualified to be a federal judge. And so the FBI files are fascinating. 2 other sets of documents I'll mention really quickly that have never been seen before that are in Scalia, Rise to Greatness. One is that in 1992, in his chambers at the Supreme Court, Justice Scalia conducted a secret oral history that was only declassified or only unsealed after his death in 2018.
Wow.
And he looks back his whole life, the time when he was rejected by Princeton because he thought there was anti-Italian prejudice against him, where he talks about all his parents, his Catholic faith. This long, lengthy oral history has never been published before. And then another set of documents includes, we all know about his famous friendship with Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yep.
The two of them actually met not on the Supreme Court, but on the Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit, which is one rung below the Supreme Court and often described as the second most powerful court in America. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a judge there starting in 1980, and Antonin Scalia joined in 1982. And going through RBG's papers at the Library of Congress, I actually call these the RBG Nino papers. The letters, the handwritten notes, the memos, the draft opinions that flew back and forth between the chambers of Ginsburg and Scalia when they were first getting to know each other really capture not only their genius and their wit, and as they banter back and forth on the law, on the First Amendment and other issues, but the blossoming of this celebrated friendship in real time. These exchanges between Ginsburg and Scalia, having read the papers of those judges on that court at that time, and Robert Bork and others, the Ginsburg-Scalia correspondence is unlike any other two judges on that court at that time, and I dare say, unlike the correspondence of any two judges on any court at any time. So the readers of Scalia Rise to Greatness will see the birth and the blossoming of this famous friendship.
All right. He is James Rosen, and all Americans who are interested in history and the law should pick up his new book, Scalia Rise to Greatness, 1936 to 1986. James Rosen, always a pleasure having you on, and good luck.
Thank you, James.
I hope to be back soon.
Oh, we will have you back.
All right, take care.
Thank
Chief
you.
White House correspondent for Newsmax as well, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
If you're talking about it, Dan and Amy are talking about it. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
When your home or business has an insurance claim, the next step is very important. The claim process with insurance can be tedious, hard to understand, and difficult to navigate. You need someone working for you. You need a licensed claim adjuster. Why? The insurance company will send out their inspectors that work for them, get paid by them, and represent them, not you.
This is Dan Lights from Crosscom. We inspect your property, file your claim, negotiate the damages, and maximize your settlement with your insurance company. If we complete the repairs approved by your insurance company, our service is free. Crosscom Public Adjusters has turned denied claims into approved claims. We've also increased insurance claims anywhere from 23 to 1,000%. We are licensed by the Department of Insurance and work in Illinois, Northwest Indiana, and Southern Wisconsin. Crosscom Public Adjusters, 630-871-5500. Online at CrosscomInc.com. That's CrosscomInc.com. Crosscom, building trust for over 20 years.
Everyone has trouble in their business from time to time, whether it's something you've been trying to fix for years or a temporary problem like a key employee who left abruptly. Turnkey has people who can help. Turnkey can fill a gap on your team or place someone on site to fix these problems. Their consulting staff has years of experience in just about every business function you can think